OBI's hiring of its new president, Mark Johnson. And so we're going to have a panel. Please welcome Debbie Kitchen's going to moderate a panel with Mark and OBI Board Chair Sam Tannahill. Or I'm going to do sock puppets while they come out. I'm not sure which. Here they come. All right. All right, please welcome our next panel.
Thanks, Patrick. We got talking.
All right. Well, thank you both for being here today and talk about the future for OBI. Mark, you were a legislator with a lot of important assignments and responsibilities. Why did you want to lead the legislature and to lead OBI?
Well, it wasn't an easy decision. Thanks for the question. I really enjoyed my former life, and it's not an easy decision to tell your landlord, who happens to be Mike McLean, that you might not be coming back to the legislature. But the opportunities for OBI are really exciting for me. I had a chance I think we all had a chance to see how the business community can function well when it's united and of one voice and united behind a collective vision. And we saw that during the whole Measure 97 discussion a year and a half ago. So that's one reason. I can see the value in bringing together, for business, two associations, OBA and AOI. But I would say also, I'm also really excited because I'm also able to continue to do many of the same things that I did as a legislature working for House District 52. I'll continue to be involved in creating good, sound policies, not just for business, but for education and for economic development, as well as be involved in the political process too. All things that I've enjoyed doing as a legislator, and I think I can do much more effectively now at I guess, more of a macro level, if you want, than I was able to do it at House District 52. So I'm excited to be able to have OBI take some lead on some issues, but more importantly, I think just to convene a united business community for Oregon.
Great, okay, thank you. And Sam, why did you and the other board members at OBI feel that Mark was a good choice for the job?
Well, first of all, good morning, Debbie, and thank you so much. I feel like that's a trick question. I mean, come on, look at Mark. He has a record in legislature as a moderate legislator, an elected leader who reached across the aisle to bring people together to find solutions, to create compromises. He sits on a school board. He's probably one of the most people that I know that's intimately familiar with the largest thing that we have facing us now as a state and a business community, and that's the fiscal crisis that we're facing. And the cherry on top, he's a business owner. He's also someone that can bring together, demonstrated bringing together rural and urban areas, and as a truly statewide business community and association, we need someone in that CEO position that's going to bring everybody together, because that's the most important thing that we can do right now, bring everybody together to solve the crisis in front of us. So it was pretty easy, I got to say.
All right, well, thank you. Mark, you had an opportunity to observe the Oregon Business Plan as a legislature, and now you're one of the leaders of the plan in your role at OBI. What role do you see OBI playing as it relates to the business plan moving forward?
Again, a good question. I've had a chance to be a part of the Leadership Summit for, I think, at least the last 8 or 9 years, as long as I've been associated with the legislature. And I've always enjoyed being where you are out there today, receiving some great input, great ideas about Oregon's business, what's necessary to make us successful, and so forth. But what's disappointed me is that when we leave this room, you go back down to Salem or you go back to wherever you came from, and sometimes it seems like the plan doesn't get the amount of attention that it should. And it disappoints me because this is really a good piece of work. There's a lot of great research that goes into putting the business plan together. You may not like the action points, perhaps, that come out of the business plan, but it's really hard to argue the data, because really smart people work long and hard to put these numbers together. And some of these slides that we saw recently here this morning, I think, are indicative of that. So it's great work, and it really needs to have more of a place, I think, throughout the state. But what I really want to emphasize from the OBI perspective is really emphasizing that O in the business plan. And I don't do this to say go Ducks, although if I do this all day and Willie Taggart stays, I'll do it. But I wanted to make sure that it's all of Oregon. I think the rub sometimes is that folks outside of the metro area feel like it's a metro area plan just because OBC is based in Portland. Well, that's not the case. And I want to make sure that all sectors of the state have a voice in creating the business plan as we go forth, so that from Portland to Prineville to Pendleton, we all have collective ownership in this plan. And as we go forth now from OBI, the business plan will really be, it's the policy playbook for our legislative policy team we're going to have in the Capitol working each and every day. And it will be the tool that we're going to use as we get into the political environment too, to judge how we're going to get engaged and how we're going to be effective in that arena as well. So I'm really excited about having a first-hand opportunity to work within the plan.
Okay. And Sam, as a business owner and leader with OBI, what do you see OBI's role in the business plan?
Well, Debbie, Mark answered that so great. It's one of the reasons why we hired him, so I don't have to say anything anymore when I get asked these questions. But, when we look at the business plan at OBI, for a long time when I was chair of OBA, and we talked about the business plan, it was always, oh, this is OBC's business plan, or this was AOI's business plan, and talking to AOI folks, this was OBA's business plan. And now, during the last 3 years, when we had this transition of forming OBI from OBA and AOI, OBC walked with us step by step, and we made a recommitment to the business plan that we would bring the whole business community together, and that the Oregon business plan would act, as Mark said, as the playbook, as the strategic playbook for the Oregon business community for the long term, to be looking to our policy North Star, let's call it, and that OBI would be on the ground in enacting that policy that was put forth by the business plan. So when OBI meets now, we say to each other when we come to a policy statement, does this agree with the business plan or not? And if it doesn't agree with the business plan, we need to figure out why. If it does, then that's easy. And if it's not in the business plan, then we come together at the leadership committee or at the steering committee, which really encompasses the entire Oregon business community, and we figure out what needs to be in the business plan. So truly, it's bringing it back to that, it's Oregon's, but it's our business plan.
Great, thank you, thank you. So Mark, we've been talking about the state's budget crisis. What role do you see OBI playing in this upcoming effort?
Debbie, I had a chance last Thursday and Friday to lead the first ever strategic planning retreat for OBI. After being on the job for 29 days, that was a good task. But I was really excited to hear from our members and from the board members that represent various sectors throughout the state of Oregon about how they really want to be involved in this conversation. OBI wants to be a convener. OBI wants to be a leader in this process. And we recognize that we're not the only business association in the state, obviously, but we want to convene and bring our other association partners together to collaborate on a solution. Again, some of those slides we saw this morning that Patrick was talking about are just simply breathtaking. This is a crisis. But we also recognize that the solution has to be collaborative, that it's business, it's labor, it's the legislative leadership, it's the executive branch. I mean, there's a table over here that was functional earlier, but it should be symbolic, okay? We need a table convened as soon as possible with all those entities involved, because there's never going to be the perfect time to come together to do the hard work. There's always going to be a legislative session on the pending horizon. There's always going to be a political season coming up. We need to start now, because the longer we delay, the bigger the hole gets, and it's just providing, it's addressing cost drivers, but it's also providing a much more sustainable, reliable funding stream for our public services. So OBI really wants to be a convener, and we will be there leading the way.
Great. Sam, what would you like to add to that?
Debbie, I can't agree more with Mark that OBI will be at the table. We will come to the table. We will compile the business community's opinions from Boardman to Bend to Burns to Medford, and we will bring that to the table so that, it's imperative that we get going now. I mean, you and I sat at that table last year. We sat at the table the year before with Patrick, trying to find a solution. As Patrick mentioned, we all have plans, and certainly OBI has a plan how we can help fix this crisis that's in front of us. But we need to take all those ideas and all those plans together and bring them to the table, and through shared sacrifice, this is what Oregonians do, come up with a solution to what's in front of us. So I can guarantee you OBI will be there for sure.
Great, thank you. So, Mark, some people think the only problem with the budget is that businesses aren't paying their fair share in taxes. So, what are your thoughts about that?
I've heard that. Actually, I heard it quite a few times in House Revenue over the last couple of sessions. But I guess I would say, for me, the concept about who's paying their fair share and what is really just a soundbite. But it's a soundbite that doesn't lead us to a solution. And that's really where we are in the course of the state now. We need to come together to find some common ground on these issues. Because we've got a budget crisis. Again, this is the theme today. You're going to hear this time and time again, but we've got to take some action. We need to take action sooner rather than later. The longer we delay, the worse the problem gets. So we will be there to convene and to look beyond the sound bites to actually offer up some real solutions and so forth. But, you know, as was mentioned earlier, I continue to serve on my local school board in Hood River County. In fact, my superintendent and some board members are over here. But if you'd ask my superintendent, Dan Goldman, about why do we need to get going right now, he'll say, every year we delay means we're losing opportunities for kids in the classroom. We're saddling teachers with class sizes that are just functionally impossible to create quality instruction. It's making us less competitive as a state. You know, we really have to come to grasp with that. So from our perspective, from OBI's position, we will be leading, but leading towards solutions and sitting down and talking with everybody and trying to come to do the hard work that needs to be done to really find a solution to Oregon's crisis.
All right, thank you. Sam, what makes you think the players in this state are going to be willing to come together and agree on a solution similar to what the business plan has been advocating in terms of not just new taxes, but also cost control and maintaining a healthy economy?
Well, the answer to that, Debbie, is rather short. It's because we need to, we have to. We don't have any more excuses. The time is now. The longer answer is because we've done it before. In 2013, we got together and created a grand budget, or excuse me, a grand bargain to help solve this fiscal crisis. That didn't stick, unfortunately, but we've done it before. We can do it again. I'm also reminded, sitting up here, looking out over everybody. Last time I was up on a stage at this the convention center was for the Statesman Dinner, and we had Governor Raimondo from Rhode Island who came up and spoke to us, who delivered a tremendous address. Rhode Island was in the same spot that we were. She came in, got everybody, sat down at the table, and they found a solution to the crisis that was in front of them. So it's not impossible. Now we are not Rhode Island business and industry. We're Oregon business and industry. But I'm also reminded of bringing AOI and OBA together. Let me tell you, that was a difficult task. The hardest task was probably getting the two groups to sit in the room together. That was the hardest step. We found that when I sat down there with Pat Wrighton across from me, once we sat in the room together, that was, it started almost a cascade, a waterfall that brought us all together. It was unstoppable. So as I was leaving the house this morning, we have two sayings hanging on each side of our door that my kids, and my 9-year-old daughter put one up, and my 11-year-old son put the other up. And my son says, it's a Lao Tzu saying, which is interesting. It says, a journey of 10,000 miles begins with a single step. And I think we need to make that step, and we need to make to that step to the table. And then thinking back over the last year, my daughter has a sign hanging up on the other side of the door that says, let it go. And we need to let it go. We need, as Patrick said, we need to put aside everything that drove us apart over the past few years and come together, because the time is now. We're Oregonians, and this is what we do.
Great. Well, on that note, thank you so much, both of you, for being here. We're all rooting for the success of OBI and ultimately for the success of Oregon as we, address this fiscal crisis in the coming years. So thank you for being here, and please join me in thanking them again for the panel.
Good job. Thanks, Mark.